and what is their itch that needs to be solved or scratched in order for them to take our product and add it. So that's how this iteration has led to where we are.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Campfire. I am your host, Desmond Dixon, and today we have an amazing one for you. Like always, I have the queen herself, Heather Stafford, my fellow co-host. And today we have our special guest, Mr. Ramesh Kumar. And I'm really excited about this one because Ramesh is he started multiple different startups and bringing like technology and disruption to multiple different industries. And, when he told me a little about his story about his current company, it really, really stood out to me. And so I would love to have him on the show and really just kind of give you guys some value of essentially what his journey was, some lessons he's learned in terms of sales and scale, maybe even some fundraising if that's possible. And, really just play in the sandbox. Just kind of give you a little bit more update about Mr. Kumar. He's currently working as a CEO at a tech startup in the healthcare space. So this will be a fun one, guys. So Mr. Kumar, man, welcome.
Thank you, Desmond and Heather. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we got to just cut straight to the chase, man. So where did this all begin, and how did you become to where you are today? How did Mr. Kumar become Mr. Kumar, the entrepreneur?
Well, so the biggest influence in my life was my dad. He's an entrepreneur who's kind of started businesses like selling T-shirts and exporting them, or packaging shrimp and exporting to different countries, or importing gas pipelines and getting them installed for government projects. So variety of stuff. But what was really maybe a moment that got me going into entrepreneurship very early on when I was growing up as a kid in Pakistan was our dining room was filled up with these boxes of soda making machines. And my dad had an idea at one point that in our country, we don't have easy access to soda when guests come. So somehow he found a company called, there's a Soda Stream and there's another company. And so he imported these boxes, and there was a faulty box. So we had these whole room full of boxes that were faulty. Now what do we do? So anyhow, he got me and my brother and my sister to work, and we started fixing those, gluing them and whatnot. And through that, it really got me thinking about entrepreneurship, fixing problems, and kind of tackling challenges. And fast forward all of that, I went through some great education along the way, and but it was clear to me that I will start a business. So I started a business initially in the mobile couponing ticketing space that I built and sold in the UK, and then I got involved in a bunch of other startups in the electric motorbike space, through to data science, data analytics, and now what I'm doing in healthcare, which is really, really exciting because we feel in the US healthcare system, you and I, Desmond, if you do come over to the US, something happens, or Heather, as if you do end up having an accident while you're snowboarding, you have no idea what things will cost when you go into the healthcare system. You have no idea how many bills you will receive afterwards. You don't really have real direction as to what you should be doing to use the healthcare properly and how to reduce your cost. And it's not really personalized. So we're trying to address these challenges that you and I face in our US healthcare system day in, day out. We don't know what things cost. So we are trying to bring that price transparency to every individual in America. So that's kind of fast forward journey to what we are doing today.
Oh, that's amazing. That is fantastic. I mean, the healthcare industry is one of the few. There are very few these days that hasn't been disrupted, but it has been just unfortunately sat in that antiquated space for way too long.
Yes. And it all goes back to the whole incentive structures where people have no idea what things cost, and it's because it's a fee-for-service system. So I think there is a lot of, we believe, this lack of transparency. We spend a lot and we get not that much from it. So it's a data problem. And so we are bringing a lot of data around healthcare prices, around details of medical history, pharmacy kind of spend and everything, to really bring it together to do very simple things for an individual. We give them a mobile app experience where you can pretty much, using your voice or other input, like find out where am I on my deductible, is so and so doctor in my network, what is my copay if I was to go there, how many physical therapy sessions are left on my plan. And it gives you those nudges. Hey, did you know that if you were to do X, you can save $250 on your plan, because we have all of that data that we have used to compute for you on these 3 meds. If you were to use mail order, you can actually save $250. So that's the kind of service that's possible now with the data and the technology, and that we're trying to deliver to the member.
Beautiful. That is fantastic. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. Let's see, with every startup, you got to go through many, many avatars, shapes, and changes before you hit the right chord. So we'll see how that scales.
I mean, that's something I'm interested in. So obviously this is definitely a very obvious problem, a well-known issue in the system, but where did you guys start when you got into this? And do you mind painting a picture of the progression of this company specifically so far as you've gone through? What challenges have you run into? Where have you guys gone?
Sure. So we started in November 2014. And initially, we had this idea that the employers need to have access to this data and an understanding of their risks in their population and cost drivers, and we need to equip them to take action and really kind of drive changes. So while that was great, interesting, it wasn't a big enough problem to solve, and two, they were left with, okay, now I know where the problems are. How do I really take an action here? At the end of the day, each member employee on my plan, when they use healthcare, that's when the spend, could be high or low. So we kind of needed to really think more about a solution. So we kept kind of iterating on our product in terms of the business as a whole. We went through almost 3 other steps. Initially, we were selling direct to employers back in 2016. Then we found that it wasn't easy to scale that. So then we started selling through benefit consultants who work very closely with employers. Then we found that wasn't also a great way to, wasn't a good go-to-market strategy. Then we pivoted to selling through third-party administrators who manage the claims, healthcare claims, and communicate with the member population. And so that was the journey on the go-to-market over those 6 years, where we kind of flipped a couple of times. And then from the product lens, we had a product that was serving the employer to help them manage the risks and costs. But then we found that the bigger issue is you and I really lack that price transparency and lack that direction. So we pivoted into providing a solution service for the member.
That is amazing. I mean, for everybody who listens to this, this is such a good overview and a good lesson. It's not getting it right the first time. It's being willing to shift and shift and shift and iterate and iterate and iterate based on the data that you get. Data is the driver. I'm going to repeat this and grind this into our listeners and the people that follow us. You guys know that I am a hard knuckle on data. If you don't have data and you don't have good math, you don't have a business. So if you look at this is a really good example. Data drove every decision that they made. They went, oh, wait, this is a bigger problem. Shift. Oh, this is a bigger problem. Shift. Oh, this isn't going to market right. Great. Shift. But it is about making that different choice.
Man, we can go so many different ways with this, but I have some questions, Mr. Kumar. I have some questions. So I'm really interested, the devil's in the details, right? In the terms of mastery, if you bring a snowflake from the North Pole and the snowflake from Antarctica to Florida, and you walk up to a stranger and say, "Hey, what's the difference between these two snowflakes?" They will be like, "They're just snowflakes." But if you go to an Eskimo, they'll be like, "Well, this one looks this way," because they see it all the time. Like they know the details, right? And so you mentioned something that I thought was like super, super interesting, where when Heather was talking about the data, and you guys, pivoted multiple times with your product, your distribution model. Like, talk to me about like what were some of the signs or those epiphany moments that allowed you to be honest with yourself that you guys needed to change. Like, talk to me about like some of the signs that you were seeing. Like, what were some of the things that you're seeing in the market that drove your decision?
Yeah. So I think there are different phases of business building. The initial was what is the big problem, understanding the big problem, and you have your first attempt at the solution, and you kind of figure out, well, who is going to use this. So that was the first kind of stage, going straight to the end customer, and having a version of the solution. What we found from there, as we were trying to sell to them, to the next customer, they, while they liked the solution, they said, well, this is not what we deal with day in, day out. This is not really a problem that we experience, because our brokers are the ones who are using these tools to solve this problem for us. So we're not fully exposed to this problem while we have high healthcare costs. So then that led us to, okay, then we do need to, because the stakeholder that's solving it for this end customer is a broker, benefit consultant. So that's where we quickly moved to, and then we satisfied some of the leading companies in that space. But we still found it wasn't moving fast enough. It wasn't scaling quickly enough. It was like, okay, one customer every quarter or something. And for a tech company, you want a certain momentum behind this. So that led us to like, okay, either we need to change the size of the customer, or how we get to a lot more of these through a different go-to-market. So that led us to the third-party administrators, to really kind of make sure that we aggregate a lot of customers through a third-party administrator, where we also get access to the data quickly. So it doesn't take us, let's say 3 months to actually onboard a customer, and then afterwards deliver value. After that, maybe 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line. So how do we shorten all of that? So that really led us to the third-party administrator. And then as you move the go-to-market, you realize your solution is not sufficient, because you have to scratch their itch as well, not only the end customer. So the data there was, okay, well, I like your product because the end customer wants it, but it's, I will, we're kind of, the data we were getting from the third-party administrators in this case is, it wasn't solving big enough problem for them that they would want to buy this in bulk, or have it for the entire book of business or whatnot. So that really kept us thinking about, well, what else is a bigger problem for them, and what is their itch that needs to be solved or scratched in order for them to take our product and add it. So that's how this iteration has led to where we are, and we feel very confident now that we have reached that product market fit stage and the go-to market fit stage. Those are the two kind of stages that are critical, and certainly SaaS companies, and in healthcare even more so, the go-to market fit is really important. And then at that point, scaling can really be thought about and implemented.
Man, this is so cool, man. Like you literally just reverse engineered your distribution model based on solving each shareholder who's involved in that solution, right? Like, you went down the line, started with, okay, the end customer, what's the problem? The data, time. Time is like the most ultimate value in all sales. Can I get something faster? Can I get it sooner, like the likelihood of being more successful, right? Like we all pay for speed. We pay more for speed. And so the faster you can do things, the faster you or more responsive you are, obviously the more valuable it is to that client. And then the fact that, okay, you went at the end of the line, you solved that problem, and then you said, okay, great, we have these partners who are also shareholders in this solution that we also need to take care of as well to make it, as Heather likes to say, the podcast knows this, win, 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 and then another win because the world wins as well. So everyone's winning in that supply chain. So then you're scaling off of the wins, right? And I think it's beautiful, man. I love the fact that you even had the foresight to pivot to these brokers, because I'm a big fan of distribution, like, finding channel partners who can help you organically grow the business without paying for traffic. I mean, I think it's pretty genius. So Heather, before I go to my next question, you got a question real quick?
No question. I just that's the truth is that there are so many companies, there are so many creators. You're visionary, like the person that comes up with the initial, like, oh, I want to do this. So often you find that they are so committed to what their initial vision looks like that iteration and that shift based, no matter how much data you have, a lot of people get stuck there. And it's a message that I continuously want to get out there. Like, always reevaluate, what is your win-win? Like, are you winning? Is the end user winning? Is the problem being solved? Is it a win for the world? Is it something that is going to make the world a better place than when you walked into it? Like, make sure you know what that looks like, because if you're shifting on that, then you're always on target.
Ooh, so let's even go deeper on something in terms of like one step up. So you are working with these brokers. One thing I know, when I spoke to you, offline, the one thing I was really impressed with was the business model. Like, I was really impressed with like the actual like economics. So like, talk to me a little bit about like, we talked about the transparency, the data transparency, and like, because people like, dude, sometimes I like when I, like, for instance, when I have to take my girlfriend once to the emergency room or something like that, or the urgent care, like, we're like, all right, we are consciously known we're making a decision to get an unknown bill, right? Because we have no idea what we're going to, doesn't matter if we have health insurance, like, we know we're going to get a bill, right? So we have to like think about that. Is this serious enough for us to go here? Because we're going to pay a 4 or 5 figure bill, right? And so the transparencies, I think that's beautiful. So talk to me about like how like the cost savings, like the average cost savings as well for the clients, right? The economics, the business decision, because most executives are going to make decisions based on the numbers. Some do other people as well, but usually doesn't make sense financial for the company. So like, talk to me a little bit about like the cost savings that you helped engineer with this data that you have for transparency.
Sure. So the way to think about, let's take 1,000 employee life company, and they are self-insured. They pay for the employee healthcare costs. So a typical 1,000 employee company would be paying $12.5 million to $14 million on their healthcare bill, putting everything in place. And so a lot of it is really wasted because people, as you said, you might take your girlfriend to the urgent care or to the ER. And while in that instant, if you had enough data and the right kind of direction, if you spoke to the right people on the phone, and you ended up using, let's say, urgent care instead of ER, you would have saved the system somewhere between $500 to $700. And so those events are happening day in, day out throughout the year. And so those $14 million, easily there's a good, I would argue, $3 to $4 million is actually wasted spend. But it's very hard to capture all of that. Very hard to get to that situation when, Desmond, you are trying to make a decision to redirect you or to proactively get you to, close certain gaps in care, make PCP appointments on a regular basis, because that actually reduces costs and risks. So some people will do it, some people won't do it. So when you think about that, what we are doing with our product, for 1,000 employee life company, we charge them about $36,000 a year. And, if they use it with their, the call center support, they can get anywhere between 100 and 20 to 100 and $200,000 worth of savings. So anywhere between, let's call it on the 3x to 5x kind of range. This is what we charge to how much they can, save by driving those actions at a member level. And, while you can't capture the entire savings, but you can keep your population healthy. You can optimize these decisions day in, day out through providing transparency and direction. And you can manage that health plan a lot better so that next year, premiums don't go up for the individuals and you as an employer are not paying, more and more for healthcare. So that's the economics, how it works. And we sell it through third-party administrators who package this into their offering because they are kind of managing it at scale for a lot more people.
Wow. Okay, so it sounds like that is a kind of a no-brainer on the buy-in. Like it really does. It sounds like it's like, well, if I spend $36,000, I'm gonna save about 120 to 200. Like it doesn't seem like anybody would say no to that. So what have you guys come up against when it comes to like what rebuttals do administrators or companies have?
Sure. Yeah. So that's where kind of the creativity comes in, and how do you get that message out there to the right people? Not everyone is looking to save money on their healthcare. Let's say they want to provide better access, or they want to manage risks better rather than costs. So you have to find the right customers who are looking to do what you are, solving for. And so that message needs to be crisp, and that message needs to be delivered to the types of ideal customer profiles. So there's a lot of work that we have done, more recently as we are trying to figure out how do we scale now ideal customer profile, and within that, who is actually responsible for this? Because it's the end customer. While they get the value, we need to sell to the third-party administrators, and within that, who is actually responsible for existing book of business, and it is responsible for delivering that cost savings. So that, individuals we need to target our messaging. We need to make sure we have the right sales and marketing infrastructure. We need to have these case studies that constantly prove that, okay, in this segment, we can, not necessarily guarantee, but we're pretty confident because we have done this before. So a good example, we had a mining company that got value from our platform while they were having a very, very difficult time, with keeping the mines open. And we delivered tremendous value, and that became a case study for us. And then we suddenly got another mining company to be our customer. And so, there are not that many mining companies in certainly the areas that we were selling into. So that's kind of various aspects of scaling this. So understanding the ideal customer profile, having the right messaging, the sales and marketing engine to get the message out, the case studies, and then within that, having these beachheads of, okay, a certain size TPA who's selling into the school systems or selling into mining companies or selling into whatever. So that's how we found that it's kind of scales.
That's amazing. That's absolutely phenomenal. So how big is your company right now? And so what size are you guys looking to grow to?
Sure. We're still, I would say, a second inning. I'm more familiar with the cricket analogy, but it kind of translates to baseball as well, to some extent. Basically, we have 35 people in the company today. We are looking to double or 2.5 times revenue growth in the next 12 months. We think we can get to 5 times the size today in terms of revenue growth over the next 2.5 years. So that's really our target, and we'll see how things go from here.
I love
we're
that.
Excited. We're bullish about, in particular, the kind of as you kind of had the raise yourself, when you have a clear ROI case, when you have a clear message, it's a lot easier to really then test it out, scale it, and see if it's working well for scaling.
Absolutely. Like that is a very direct response. Like, I've told you guys this once, I will tell you this 100 times. Test it out, take the data, look at it, and say what worked and what didn't. You have to be unattached to the results when it comes to what works and what doesn't work. It doesn't mean the product doesn't work. It means this version of it didn't work as well as I had hoped. Great. What can I do to change that data, try again, and have it work and exceed my expectations?
Man. I love this conversation. Like, this has been super amazing. And the thing that like I felt in my heart, what you said, Ramesh, was the messaging in the market and like understanding your ideal customer. Like, I heard this for years. Everyone keeps saying, understand your personas, understand your customers. And when you're first starting off in entrepreneurship, you want to serve everybody. Everyone gets to go. I want to sell everything to everyone, right? Like, I don't want to leave money on the table, right? Like, what if I miss out on money because I'm so here? But what's crazy, like, the more specific you get for the specific person with a specific problem, with a very specific solution, the amount of certainty goes through the roof, which then feeds sales, because the more certain you are, the more certainty you're projecting on your prospect with social proof and reviews and testimonials that help you secure the bag, because we all know the most certain person wins. Period.
Always.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I love that, man. So like, let's go a little deeper, because this is good, and especially with the mining thing that you told me. So like, are you guys looking? I mean, you don't have to get too deep if you don't want. So with the mining thing, like, did you like figure out during this process that companies who are in a interesting financial situation due to maybe things external, like regulations and things that they can't control, who need to control costs, are probably like some of your best customers, since you guys provide so much value in terms of cost savings? Or what did you like? I'm just trying to figure out, like, what did you figure out with the mining situation?
Yeah, so mining was maybe a way to just somehow I ended up accelerating things, and we had a case study that was so specific. But when I step back, the pattern that I see is certainly our solution is very delivers a lot of value for the middle market employers. So these are companies that are 250 employees to 5,000-8,000 sort of employee life companies, and they're being served by either TPAs or what they call the carriers, like Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and others. But it's not being served well by them, let's say today, because they don't give that flexibility, the tools, and the support that the middle market employer needs. And so our tool kind of allows them to do that and really drive down these risks and costs. So that's kind of where we've seen that middle market is the key, being served by the TPAs in particular. They can be any sector. We have schools, we have engineering consultancy firms, we have cities, municipalities, we have you name it. We have all kinds of employers on our platform.
Oh my God, I love this. So I'm hearing you say something really interesting, and I just kind of want to highlight this. Like, if you guys go back to the part of the story where he talked us through like the iterations of the company, the first problem that they wanted to solve was solving for cost and risk. So who they were delivering that solve to didn't necessarily work, but the initial vision for solving on cost and risk, like paired with the data that they got, where like the person who needs to know what's going on to make that, to like move the needle on cost and risk, is the end user. It's the me's in the world, the you's in the world. If we educate X, it solves for Y and delivers Z. Because if you package that together, selling this to your TPUs or TPUs.
TPA, third party
TPAs.
administrators. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so your third party administrator, the benefit for them understanding this is that they can, that confidence, that clarity, that certainty goes up. They can stand behind a product and they sell more, which means they make more money. So that is the most prime example we've had to date, like in all historical data on this pod, of what a win-win-win looks like when you're not attached to results. This is what a win-win-win looks like. You took a vision and the data that came out of it, and you put it all in a blender and made a smoothie and said, okay, if we give them everything and we operate here, here, and here, and sell to this person over there who sells to all these people in front of us, then everybody's happy. I think it's fucking beautiful.
No, I think you're spot on, which is like understanding those stakeholders, and really giving value to those entities, because they all, together play a role in this, whether to drive up the costs or to hopefully reduce the costs.
Well, it's driving an educational, the knowledge in general. Like, you give an end user more knowledge. Like, hey, here's an easy, user-friendly, non-time consuming way for you to find out what you should do in a scenario, where you should go in a specific case. Healthcare is mind-boggling. I'm lucky. I'm one of the rare few in the world, even as the CEO of a couple different companies and the CEO of a couple different companies, my insurance has always been government-based. Like, we're a military family, so I am spoiled. I go to the same place. I got clear directives on the get-go. And when it comes to how like the military and the government sector operates, like, that's how we do it. You get given a line, you follow the line. So I've never had to really think about that. But when I grew the last agency, like, I had to think about, like, where am I going to buy my people insurance? And my response was, somebody find me somebody who buys this shit. Period. Like, I am not qualified to make this decision. As a CEO, that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
To stop and go, I am not qualified to make an impactful decision on my humans.
Yeah.
And where am I supposed to find that information?
Yeah.
You guys are doing some mad, crazy, awesome work in the world.
Thank you. Well, it's it takes a lot of people, obviously, to kind of shift the big, whether it's an industry. But I think healthcare obviously has got a lot of problems. It does get a lot of people excited to address it, solve it. So at least that part, we are blessed that we're able to recruit great talent. We are able to work on important problem, and there's a commercial upside. So it's as you kind of say, win-win-win-win.
Yep.
Win. So as we come to the end here, close to the end, we have to end it off, this interview, with what's some sound advice or some lessons that you've learned that you'll love to share with the audience, that you will love to leave behind. And then also, where can they find you if you wanna leave that information as well?
Sure. So listen to podcasts, listen to Campfire podcast. I would say, on a serious note, each stage of your business startup will have different challenges. And there's so much amazing material out there in today's world. Amazing, thinkers, amazing practitioners, amazing, coaches, trainers. There's so much knowledge. Try to find the most relevant things and be a really good student. And you can actually address a lot of problems very quickly and at speed. So that's one big thing. I listen to, 6 to 7 podcasts a day. And every day, I wake up, I've got this particular thing I'm trying to tackle in my business. Let me search for the right podcast on that. So you can find your own medium. The other, which I think, Heather, you said this a few times, and I think Desmond, you also highlighted, which is kind of look at the signals, constantly evaluate, take that 50,000 foot level view, look at the data that's coming through from your customers, from your partners, and ask the tough question, okay, is this working? Is this not working? Whether it's, product, whether it's a certain feature, whether it's whatever. So you're able to constantly ask the questions, right questions, look at the data and make those adjustments all along. It's not, building a startup, it's not one great decision that you'll make one day. It will be lots of series of small tweaks and decisions. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. Never give up. That's the motto that you'll hear from many entrepreneurs. Where there's truth to that, because you just don't know which corner that you turn. Suddenly you're gonna face a great growth prospect. So those are kind of few things to keep in mind.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. And this was fun. I really appreciate it. And man, we'll love to have you back on the show in a future date. We're in this for a long time. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Sure, same here. Thank you for having me, Desmond and Heather. And hopefully in a year's time, I'll be reporting back if we doubled or not. You can read me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn, Ramesh Kumar from Zaki Point Health.
Awesome. We'll put all his information in the show notes, guys, if you guys want to, connect with Mr. Ramesh. So we're at the end of the pod. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming to the Campfire Hanging Out. If you love this show, you think that someone would get a ton of value from it, please hit that share button, send it to them. Don't forget to give us a rating, a review, send us an email for some comments. If you want to be a guest on the show and play with us on the sandbox, feel free to go to campfirecapitalism.com/guests and make a request. And we'll love to play with other entrepreneurs and creators in the world. So it's been great, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
If you call